constructed bill, because I think it does happen for a house, a residential. It's partially built on January 1st, you get assessed for partial construction status. If somebody can confirm that, maybe.
Yeah, there are three Senate bills. If you go on to the next page, you've got 134 and
Yep.
135, all of which deal with the enterprise zones. My guess is what they do is they pick one of them as the vehicle, and they run the extension of the enterprise zone program through a single bill rather than through multiple bills.
Yeah, as I say, I guess I was bringing this up because this first one says establishes and the other ones say extend. So that's why I was asking if there's something different going on here. But yeah, for the commissioners, are we generally supportive of these economic development tools that we've had in our, what do they call it? The quiver or whatever.
I support him.
As long as there are to have them too. I do feel like on some level, enterprise zones encourage a race to the bottom in terms of communities offering up tax revenue that they could really use for various things. But for us to be competitive with other communities, we have to offer what other communities offer.
Yeah, so it's a statewide Oregon incentive. So, and then also a letter of support generally, because we understand there's a package of bills. So we could probably put a letter together that says, we've and EDCO can even, probably already has some paragraphs and sentences that say, this has been valuable. It's been used here. We like to have it in our opportunities in the future to offer this. So I like that. Sounds like we're all supportive. We'll take a position of support. Number 2 is fine. And then also a letter.
Great. Thank you, commissioners. I'm going to skip past the bill review that's flagged on page 6 of the report, since we already discussed House Bill 2828 during 911's review. So that's a similar review from community development on the same bill. Moving on to page 7, which is Fair Expo. Jeff, would you mind summarizing for the board House Bill 2510?
Yeah, absolutely. Good morning, commissioners. Thank you, Whitney. So House Bill 2510 is a bill that would remove the cap on lottery funding, the 1% of lottery funding that goes to the network of fairs across the state of Oregon. Fairs receive 1% of net lottery proceeds in order to provide capital improvements on fairs, which benefits especially those smaller fairs in smaller communities in numerous ways. For us, it's a nice thing, but for some of the fairs, it's integral for their operation. At times, this has been completely zeroed out when the funding doesn't exist, and this cap has been in place for a little over 20 years now, and hasn't provided an increase in funding in that 20 years. So hasn't kept pace with COLA or any of the other economic increases that we've seen across the nation. So this cap would, or the removal of the cap would provide additional incentive into fairs across the state for them to be able to utilize those funds for capital improvements, which are necessary for fairs to operate as not only community centers, but also for emergency response, as every fair across the state of Oregon has done within the past 36 months. So I'll leave it there and open it up to any questions, and would love to see support on this bill. Not necessarily because it benefits Deschutes County quite as much, but it benefits the network of Oregon fairs integrally. And they haven't seen an increase in almost 20 years. And the time is probably right for that.
Commissioner Dare, what do you got there?
Central Oregon Rancher. Finally, we've got Deschutes County in it. The cover. Thank you, Jeff. It looks fabulous. So, and of course, I've already written my letter about supporting the fairs. And there is a bull sale in Deschutes County Monday. If anybody wants to do something unusual on President's Day, you can go down and buy some bulls in Terrebonne.
Is it a spectator event too? Is that something to hang out at?
Well, you can go and get dinner Sunday night. So if you want to have a family style dinner, really, it's a fabulous ranch. So anyway, their ad is in there. But yeah, no, I was thrilled. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you for that. And I already sent my letter in. I've been to the Lake County Fairgrounds last summer for that celebration of life, and they could really use a couple $100,000. It's really sad how, this cap needs to be lifted a bit.
Commissioner Chang.
If we don't need these monies, if this is a nice to have, but not need to have for us, I would urge us to take a neutral stance on this. If more money is going to fairs around the state, it means that less lottery dollars are available for schools, for economic development, for veteran services, for watersheds, for parks, and a whole bunch of other things that are currently funded out of lottery dollars. So more support for fairs is a really valuable thing, but on some level, I feel like communities have to come up with that support at the local level to have their fair and expo, their fairgrounds.
So my position on this is it is a real shame that the state of Oregon is so I don't know if it's dependent, but so excited about Oregon lottery revenue and how to slice and dice it. I just know that promoting gaming and having this big pool for dollars and then bonding against it and against future revenue associated with gaming is just a value that I don't get excited about. It's a real shame. We definitely have a relationship. The big picture in the state of Oregon is, we're not allowed to do gaming locally, and this is the agreement. So getting dollars back locally because of all the gaming activity in our counties. I support this just as part of the conversation. Legislators have the authority here, but I absolutely support this because if it's a hard cap and the system is growing, let's remove that cap and get to some proportional investment also. So I support that number 2 support position. Doug, you still have your hand up. Any?
Yeah, I just note that hearing was held on the 7th February on this. There was a long witness list. I popped my head into the hearing and the room was packed. And if you look online on OLIS, there are, I count 36 separate statements testifying on behalf of the bill. So lots of interest in this. Committee staff told me they expect to probably schedule it for a work session at some point in the next 3 weeks.
Yeah, great. So good discussion, and let's just hold on to that position, number 2 support.
Thank you. On pages 13 and 14, it looks like HR has 3 bills to review. Kathleen, would you mind taking us through those? Excuse me, 13 and 15.
Great. So I actually think that House Bill 2448, which is was actually reviewed by Health Services, and it was sent to me for review as well. And I support, I actually copied the recommended position with Health Services, and it makes a lot of sense especially if the funding is based on the salary schedule of those classifications. If our IDD funding is based on that be evaluated at a more timely manner. It seems it hasn't been evaluated in quite a while. So that one I think is a 2 in support with Health Services, and HR supports that as well. And let's see the other ones that we have here. So the other one with Health Services that was also sent for me for review is the House Bill 2773.
Let's take them individually here. So 2448
sure.
is what you were just talking about. So a proposed position is 2 support. It's for community developmental disabilities programs, and it's reviewing the compensation philosophy or market. Is that correct?
It is. And actually, Whitney, can you help me understand, did has the board already taken a stance on this?
Yes,
one?
Commissioner DeBonne,
Position?
sometimes our software doesn't align with our structure incredibly well. And so the board did actually take a position of to support earlier. You'll see that noted in the health services section of bills. And then sometimes when we assign them to multiple departments, you'll see them pop up again. So Kathleen's correct. The board has already taken a position on that bill, which you're free to revisit, but you'll see it noted earlier.
Well, so yeah, okay, moving on then.
And that's actually the same with this one, House Bill 2773, which is the Oregon Health Authority to provide incentives to increase recruitment and retention for local public health professionals. That was also sent to HR. And I agree with the position of the board as well as health services there. There was another one that did come my way that has not been reviewed by the board yet, but is actually extremely similar. And that's House Bill 3205. And it is nearly the same as, where did it go? I think House Bill 2607, which removes the definition of, removes hiring bonuses and retention bonuses from the definition of compensation under pay equity. And these bills have exactly the same language, but this newer bill, House Bill 3205, has language to pass immediately. That's the only difference. And it looks as though, and Doug, you can probably maybe know more on this, but that the other bill is being sort of dropped and this bill is being picked up as the one that's moving forward, given the amount of support here. And so if I'm understanding correctly, the other House bill is being dropped and this one is, or not necessarily being dropped, but not being pursued. And this is the bill that is now being pursued regarding compensation with pay equity.
Yeah, commissioners and staff, that is correct. 3205 is the lead vehicle. If I recall correctly, the county lent its logo to a letter this past week. I think that was discussed with the commissioners. And that effort is being led by TriMet, but being supported by just about every single public entity that I'm aware of around the state. We're already seeing the potential impacts of this lead to a difficulty in attracting and retaining staff. So this would return the flexibility, at least to public agencies, for that ability for retention bonuses, et cetera. So yes, correct.
Thank you. And the board did take position on the prior bill. And so I think the question is if the board wants to continue with that position. I'm assuming so, given the recent addition of the logo, but officially wanted to check in on this one.
Great. Is there support for this, transferring this existing support for this concept?
I think the sooner we do this, the better. It's happening in all these other states. Let's not allow bonuses. So
Good. Commissioner Chang? Oh, maybe a little choppy all of a sudden.
I'm good. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. That's all that I have.
Thank you, Kathleen. Commissioner DeBonne, I'll defer to you. We have a couple bills flagged for natural resources, but I don't believe Kevin was able to make today's call. Would you like to postpone discussion of these until next week? Or would you like to discuss them today?
Oh, no, so let's take a moment and discuss them, because every time we talk about a bill, it helps just put it in our head, even if we don't feel comfortable taking a position right now.
Okay. So on page 15 of the report, we did discuss House Bill 3003 last week. Jen has kind of captured the outcome of last week's discussion in terms of, I think, Commissioner Adair was wanting to support, and I think Commissioner Chang, you were comfortable potentially with support with amendments. And so we kind of wanted to revisit this with you here today, Commissioner DeBonne, and this is a bill. Doug, do you want to kind of, I believe you provided a summary of this last week. Are you comfortable?
So I'll be supportive with amendments. Let's dive into this. Juniper's come up many, many times. I think about, those different size trees that are out there. We heard about it for future development out by Eagle Crest and the Thornburg people talking about it. We've got juniper all over east side of Redmond, people cutting it down already in an unorderly fashion where they're living. Let's figure out if there's a way to do something beneficial. So, yeah, I mean, I'm excited to take a position of support and with
Well,
amendments.
And one of the key amendments that I suggested is that this cover all kinds of renewable energy applications, not just electricity, because electricity is the most economically unviable thing you can do with biomass.
Yep, yeah, I agree. You know, beneficial combustion for simple BTU energy possibly could be really good. So it looks
Yeah,
like go ahead, Doug.
Yeah, I'll just say, Commissioner Chang, thanks for that input. And there's an amendment in process that would include other opportunities, including thermal, which I think you've mentioned, et cetera. So yeah, that's one of the concepts going through right now.
Great.
Good.
Yeah, so let's switch that one to number 2, support with amendments for today, and then we'll see where it goes.
I just want to mention, I saw Mayor Richter yesterday, and he's getting ready to get his pelletizing machine out there. He wants the weather to be warmer though. But yeah, he does the ton an hour with that machine, and they're bagged up. So totally another use for junipers.
Great. I'll note that I think Representative Levy has joined us this morning, and with Nick and commissioners, maybe we could switch to the representative and get a quick update on what's going on in Salem.
Great. Thank you very much for joining us, Representative. Good morning, Representative Levy. This is our Zoom call to Deschutes County.
Yes, can you hear me?
There we go. Yes.
Yes, I didn't know I had to do a special thing to unmute. Good
Hey.
morning, yeah, Dr. Levy here. Just following up on the conversation that I was listening to with the biomass, I believe we're hearing that on Monday, correct? My energy committee? The Juniper?
Yeah, we were scheduled to hear it on Wednesday or Thursday. Well, what is today? Today's Friday. So Wednesday, and they filled up the agenda pretty quick with just 2 bills. And so I was told we'd come back Monday or Wednesday of next week.
Monday or Wednesday. Okay, yeah. I knew it was on our agenda and we didn't make it. I wasn't sure when it was carried. Yeah, I would be really happy to see those amendments and agree about the electricity comment. And we'll note that we will be getting pushback from some of our environmental friends about habitat, because I've been getting a lot of feedback on biomass issues in general. Just wanted to flag that for you all, but I am supportive with the amendment.
Great. Thanks for joining us. That's exciting. As I say, I mean, we don't need to clear cut everywhere, but there's definitely some areas, that can be brought back to previous conditions. And I'm referring to 100 years ago when it used to be more grasslands in some areas in Central Oregon. So, and we've been talking about different aspects of this, but I think there's a lot of common ground, and let's remove some of these from some places. It really comes to
absolutely.
mind, it used to be the cabinet shops talk about, small juniper boards can really make nice cabinet fronts. I don't know if it's a pellet is a good heating product, like BTUs per mass of juniper. I forget the big picture there. In fact, Commissioner Chang, I know that people like Wisewood and whoever, they know the different values of the different woods. So that may be interesting if there's a few, just like a 1-pager explaining the different ways you could use juniper.
Oh, that's very cool. If there is that 1-pager, I would love to see it.
Great.
Doug, oh, sorry, just as what what I've been working on this week. So Alyssa's Law has been really front and center. We had our hearing, and again, Alyssa's Law is the silent mobile-based panic alarm, which is just one option. And we've gotten a lot of good feedback, and just wanted to flag for you all that we are working with Chief Krantz and the 911 operator, and on the tech side. So that's where we're at right now, is really ironing out what that PSAP integration looks like. And that's where we are at. And then we expect to have a work session shortly. And I'll flag that Tigard High School is shut down right now due to a threat. And this is the first time that they needed more time, because the threat seems possibly turning. So definitely an issue in the legislature that's front and center.
Great. Well, so Representative Sarah Cross White is our 911 Public Safety Answering Point
Yep.
Director. And she mentioned it just a little while ago, the fact that we're just going to do some more research so we know how it would integrate, kind of the technology side of it.
Yes, so she and I and the tech people have a meeting next Thursday.
Yes, great. Thank you.
Rep. Levy, could you give us an update on the discussions with the semiconductor task force and committee? And I know that Redmond and some of the entities like Oregon State University, COCC, et cetera, are urging support for the portion of the land out by the airport to be used for potential semiconductors, since that's what DSO asked the region to start planning back in 2015. But can you just give us an update on where the semiconductor package is and what the pathway is and the timing is for something like that?
So I'm not sure if this was discussed before I got here, but the timeline is by the end of the month, possibly. I mean, I guess the powers that be in DC are really wanting these applications in quickly. And so we have found ourselves on a very, very accelerated timeline. And so Rep. Bynum is really encouraging us to submit everything quickly. And I think they'll be working around the clock to make sure that that we have everything in. Keith with Redmond has been really wonderful, as well as Doug. And I have personally spoken to Rep. Bynum and members of the Semiconductor Task Force, as well as Jen Baker from the Speaker's Office, to make sure that they are aware and of the land available in Redmond, and we're in constant conversation about it. They tell me that they're excited about it, but we're always in competition with Hillsborough and places like that. But we are really, especially along with Doug's help, making sure that we're in a really viable position.
So I was able to talk to Rep. Bynum about this during the Oregon Business Plan meeting in Portland a couple months ago. Her and I met at the leadership dinner that night. We got a photo together and we shared each other's phone number. She had her career in Detroit, Michigan, working for the auto industry many years ago. And that's where I grew up. So I'm just letting you know, I mean, there's a schmoozing point available there, possibly, if we want to, say hi and make a connection there. So her and I were able to talk at that leadership dinner for a while about this subject.
I would say schmooze away.
Yeah, there we go. I'll contact her and say hello.
I think that'd be a good idea. I think that they know that we're serious is helpful. I mean, I always will lean on Doug, but that would be my advice.
Yeah, that's a good point, though. I mean, let her know we're serious from many angles. Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
So, Doug, maybe if you can help me coordinate a meeting with her. I don't know how open she is schedule-wise, but I'll make that a priority to look for a day to get back down there even.
Yep, sounds good. Will do. Yeah. One other issue that I think the group might be interested in, Representative, is the homeless package, which advanced through the Housing Committee last week. I know that's another one that was a key of the governor, and includes some funding that would go to local governments and funding for the stabilization centers, et cetera. Is the timing also relatively quick on that one as well?
Yes, absolutely. So that will be in part of the first 60-day package. I know that final negotiations are working out. I bumped into Chair Dexter at about 10 p.m. and that meeting had started around 5, is my understanding. And so this week we're going to have a lot of information. I expect to see that very, very soon, and that the stabilization center money for youth will, to my best of knowledge, is a very integral part of that.
Thank you.
I would expect a work session soon, and for it just to move quickly.
Are you still on your meeting? Okay. Okay.
Well, thank you very much, Rep, for joining us. We're working our way
Thank
down.
you.
We're working our way down a spreadsheet with all the bill numbers, and it's great to hear you give us some real-time updates.
So,
Thank you. Let me know if there's anything else I can do.
Have a great day.
Thank you.
Okay, back to Whitney or,
Yep. Moving to page 16 of the report, similar discussion to the previous bill. So looking at House Bill 3142, we discussed this last week, and I believe Commissioner Adair was proposing priority 2 support. Commissioner Chang was more comfortable with support with amendments, also a priority 2. So wanting to bring this back today for additional discussion. And I think you might be on mute, Commissioner Boone.
I was letting my wife know I was on mute because we were trying to do 2 things at once here. So, yeah, I'm just looking at it right now. So provide grants to counties and soil and water conservation districts for removal of western juniper. Commissioner Chang, what were your thoughts on this?
I know Commissioner Chang has joined by phone. We might want to
Okay,
give
maybe
a
move
minute
on.
for.
Okay. I mean, at this point, I would say, you know, I'm right between watch and support. So I don't know more detail about this though, as in if there's something interesting going on where, what amendments, right? I guess that's where we're at. So Doug, do you know more?
Yeah, this is the COCO, Central Oregon Cities, Soil and Water Conservation District, et cetera, bill. There are several changes to the bill from the first that we discussed. Number one is a kind of a reevaluation of the amounts given to each county. Deschutes County would get a lower amount, about $500,000. Other counties get up to $1.875 million. That was based on an analysis of the acreage of juniper intrusion in riparian zones. So that's a technical evaluation well above my pay grade. But that change has been made. As I mentioned on the other bill, 3003, which is kind of a parallel bill to this bill, there are changes in the works to limit the tax credit, to define it to cover additional purposes such as thermal uses, et cetera, and to make sure that really what we're doing here is focusing on water conservation, stream restoration, tributary and creek restoration and health. So there was a hearing on 3142 this past week, very well received, I think, in general. There were 2 letters in opposition to the bill. One was from Central Oregon Land Watch. I will attempt to do my best to characterize Central Oregon Land Watch's letter as being a little bit ill-informed because it somehow suggested that soil and water conservation districts did not have any statutory requirement to pay attention to ecological health or water health or conservation issues. That's the very first paragraph in the statute defining creation of soil and water conservation districts. Second thing the letter suggested is that the bill should not be funding soil and water conservation districts because it should be funding organizations that actually have experience in juniper thinning for ecological purposes. And that's exactly what soil and water conservation districts have been doing, Deschutes counties included. So I just characterize that testimony in that vein. But the committee clearly has if not all the votes on the committee in favor of it, vast majority of the votes. So I expect that bill to move out of committee and to move to the Ways and Means Committee at some future point. Ways and Means Committee, I'll tell you, has expressed very strong support for the bill. You know, there's a feeling and a sense that not enough has been done for rural Oregon and central eastern Oregon as far as drought issues, water issues, et cetera. So I fully expect that this bill will be moving its way through the process and down the pike.
Where's the money coming from?
Well, the first session biennium would be general fund money. And then the hope is that the biomass tax credit creates a sustainable program, generates revenue to be able to pay for the continued efforts, the monitoring, the follow-up and expansion into other areas that could use tributary enhancement. I'll note that the Oregon State University study that came out in December of 2020 in the Trout Creek area, the 10,000 acre test site, saw 225% increases in stream flow within 1 year of the thinning processes. So that is something that I think is very typical of these projects. I've read 36 different studies that have been compiled over the last 25 years. I spent most of my winter break reading these studies. And it's all about the selection of the areas. So selection of the target areas, I think, is the most important element of these proposals or these efforts. But when done right, this appears to make a fairly significant impact on stream flows, ecological health in the area, fish restoration efforts, et cetera. And that's really the target of these bills.
Well, so I'm in the same spot. Let's support, and then with amendments is fine, whatever those might be. So is Commissioner Chang with us again on the phone or not?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So I don't have a problem with what this bill is trying to do, provide funds for juniper treatments. My concern is the framing again for Deschutes County. This really, the water emphasis is really not fitting. The reason we should be doing juniper treatments in Deschutes County is for habitat, community wildfire protection, and forage production, frankly. We talked the other day about the 710 acres. You know, if you peeled off all the juniper off of that property, there would be a whole lot more grass and forage for cows. So my concern is that by pushing the water angle, you give people the misperception that juniper, doing juniper treatments in Deschutes County is going to solve our water problems, which it is not. So I
agree with you on all that. That's fine.
Yeah, I would be supportive of a bill that emphasized the other values of doing juniper treatments, and then provided funding for Deschutes County proportionate to that, because we have a lot of juniper that needs to be treated for a lot of other reasons.
Yep. No, and that's fine. That sounds like a great spot for us. So now I understand the amendment process that you're talking about. So either we integrate that, we propose to integrate that in the bill, see if it's picked up or not. Or I mean, would you oppose it because it didn't get in, that those concept didn't get integrated, or would, because taking a support position, even if it doesn't use some of the right words, is where we might end up.
I think it creates the bill as written creates a misperception that juniper treatments are going to solve our water problems in Deschutes County, and I would oppose it because that is an inappropriate impression to create with the public.
Well, so how about we support with amendments right now, write a letter explaining everything you just said. And then we can bring it up again in the future if it doesn't go anywhere.
That works for me.
Okay, great. Yeah, so good information on that one.
Actually, I watched the whole hearing. I was on for an hour and a half. I signed up to testify for it. Tim DeRoot, who spoke, the OSU professor emeritus, it was actually after testifying, was on his way to DC to do more work. So I feel that it's definitely, we need this to happen. And as someone who has a lot of junipers on her property and sees that no moisture gets below the juniper tree when we do get that 11 inches of rain, the only way snow gets under it if the wind is blowing. So I don't have a problem with this. I do believe that it will be incredibly beneficial for our area. And I thank you, Doug, for making it your bill for our whole region. So I thank you, I thank you, I thank you.
Well, so let's look for some words, as I say, down the path that Commissioner Chang was just saying, and then we'll look at the piece of paper and make sure we have as much common ground as we can on that, and before we would send it.
Thank you, commissioners. We can definitely work on that. On page 17, Senate Bill 653, we started to have a discussion about this bill last week, and I think we had legislators join the call and kind of got interrupted midstream. So just wanting to, I'm not sure that Jen and I heard the board get to a giving feedback on the position and priority that have been proposed, which is a support to coming from natural resources, but wanting to just open this one back up for the board for any further discussion.
I just wanted to offer on this that I've gotten notification from Brad and Persinger at AOC that the amendments that I requested to this bill have been formally, there is a formal amendment that is making its way through the system. So if those amendments are accepted, I would support support a support position.
So how about we put that support with amendments as a reminder that we're looking to see what those, if they get included, I guess. And I don't know what we're referring to, but it sounds like this fits Deschutes County just fine. Money from the State Department of Forestry in coordination with the county, the governing body, and we could just pull any CWPP off the shelf and point to something, and this is how we could spend money, is my thought.
Well, I'm sorry, I'm on the road now. Before I was having internet problems. But if this is a bill for state funding for treatment on public lands, thinning on public lands, the concern before was that our public lands, our national forest lands, have tons of money available for implementation of thinning already. The problem is that we can't deal with brush, and we can't do the stuff that comes before the implementation of the thinning, right, which is the bottleneck, because we have the money to do the implementation. So those were the things that I asked to be added to the bill, and it sounds like Brandon was able to get support from Senator Knopp for that.
Great, yeah, so we're in the same spot then. Support with amendments as a reminder to follow the process that you put input it to.
Which bill number are we talking about?
653. Page 17, but yeah. So support with amendments as a reminder to follow the amendment proposal that Commissioner Chang has put in.
Thank you.
That would be great.
Okay. Thank you.
And then page 18, the last page of this week's report, Solid Waste is proposing priority to oppose for Senate Bill 859. Tim, do you want to talk a little bit about the department?
Yeah, sure. I appreciate your time this morning. So this came to our attention earlier this week, came through the Association of Oregon Counties. And it's a bill that allows local governments as well as the governor and other agencies to abate waste, graffiti, and vandalism associated with homelessness and other factors, and allows those costs to be passed to the solid waste collection ratepayers. We feel we already have the ability to build into our rates abatement for waste for these purposes. There are two areas of concern. One, it kind of expands the scope to graffiti and vandalism costs related to that relative to the solid waste tipping fee. We're not sure that's the appropriate place for it. Secondly, though, and of concern is that the governor or another agency could come in and do under this bill, do abatements and then pass those costs onto the county or municipality within the jurisdiction and get reimbursed for those costs. So those are two areas of concern relative to this bill.
I would agree that we already do this, especially it's nice during an annual budgeting process, make an estimate of what we might be offering to nonprofits and then other efforts in the community, so we can kind of budget it in a 12-month period. this would definitely open up a system of kind of taking an unknown amount of abatement waste that could escalate.
Mhm.
Thoughts, other commissioners on this? So as I said, we already kind of do this. This is interesting. Is there a specific area or a group that's proposing this? So Senator Jama, I see.
Yeah, and it just popped up this week on our radar, so we're not sure how it came into being.
Yeah. Do you know anything about this, Doug?
No, I don't. There was some discussion with some of the AOC and LOC staff this week on the bill, and I think they were trying to figure it out as well. It hasn't been scheduled for a hearing, which is unusual because Senator Jama has his hearing scheduled out about 3 or 4 weeks, and it's his bill. So I think by Monday or Tuesday we'll hear some additional information. So the conversation is helpful for us.
How about we put it on watch for this week and maybe take a position next week, and leaning towards oppose, which is the starting point, but let's just put it on watch so we understand what this is. Commissioner Dare, Commissioner Chang, any thoughts?
I'd say keep it on oppose. If our solid waste department is concerned about it, we don't need any more issues that we have. We have enough problems.
Well, so
Yeah.
oppose is the concept of maybe it's almost. I mean, it doesn't sound the same here as for what this bill may be doing. Commissioner Chang, were you going to say something? Sorry.
Yeah, I'm in alignment with Tim's analysis on this issue. So, I mean, watch sounds maybe appropriate from my end.
So yeah, let's put it to watch right now, but keep it on the list, and it's a number 2. So we'll go to oppose if it gets real tangible for us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner DeBonne, that's, we're all the way through this week's bill report. The one other additional item, unless I'm forgetting one, Jen, which feel free to jump in if I am. The board received a letter from the city of Redmond, which I emailed out earlier this morning, and it's a request to consider adding the county's logo in support of this letter, which indicates an interest in resources from the CHIPS Act, kind of a follow-up to the conversation you're having earlier. Doug, I think you have some background with this one if you want to chime in.
Sure, I'll just give you an update that the semiconductor committee has been meeting 2 days a week, one of the evenings. We attended all the hearings except for one. I missed one. And they're discussing what kind of a package or incentives the state needs to provide to industry, to local governments, and to communities to be able to leverage the $230 billion in federal CHIPS Act dollars that were passed last summer. So semiconductor leadership is a key national priority. Of course, Oregon has been a leader, not just with Intel, but with many of the Silicon Forest and ancillary companies that have popped up around the state. In 2015, the state concluded that they did not have enough large parcel land for semiconductors. So they asked communities throughout the state to start looking at it, and Redmond and the area out by the airport was one of the key areas that was brought into the discussion with DSL, with the Business Development Department, et cetera. That's led to a legislative bill that fast-tracked inclusion for industrial land into the UGB, I think back in 2019, sponsored by Senator Lee Byer. So that total piece of property right now is close to 600 acres. They are targeting a 200-acre or 200-plus acre site as potential semiconductor property. The question for the community is infrastructure and paying for the infrastructure. So if the state would step up to the plate and provide money for infrastructure for that piece of property, it's already in the UGB, it's owned by DSL, so that the sale of that property proceeds will go back into the state school fund. Close to an airport, it meets all the criteria listed by the site selection committee. So the effort is to, by the delegation really being led by Senator Knopp and Representative Levy, is to try to get infrastructure funding out of that semiconductor package. There really aren't a lot of large pieces of property within the UGB, in the state. The only potential 500-acre piece of property is in North Plains, and it's partially outside the UGB right now. There are 2 other 200+ acre sites in the entire state. So, the Deschutes County site would be, potentially very interesting to potential companies if the infrastructure existed, and it could be shovel ready very soon. So I'll leave it at that. But this is, again, one of those kind of large packages like the drought package, the homeless package, et cetera, that I think the legislature wants to pass relatively quickly. So we'll see in the next 2 weeks the details of a bill pop out.
How about we have a legislative reception up there, a noon Friday lunch under a tent out on that land? And I'm serious, get Rep. Bynum there and the committee, welcome them, spend $500 on whatever to go do it. That's lobbying type effort. EDCO would be thrilled. It would possibly get more focused on our DSL land exchange because it's just that little strip next to the fairgrounds. We'll invite the governor and the treasurer and the secretary of state, Mr. and Mrs. DSL. There may be a fun little event there we could do. I don't know if it'd be, picked up by many legislators, but it might. I'll bring the barbecue. Something. So as I say, I'll talk to Rep. Bynum. That'll be fun to see if we can get something going. Other items? I've got 2 things. We're going to be in an interesting spot. Homeless, movements, referring to Hunnell Road and the east side of Redmond. One of the conclusion items is there a spot that we might offer people? And then how do we do that? So I just want to let you know, Doug, that could be some interesting times coming up, trying to communicate with the state leadership about, okay, well, what does this look like? Referring to land use associated with working way out of bounds what we've done traditionally. So we don't need to say any more right now. It's just one of those topics that's out there, kind of trying to figure out a little. And then also Core 3, there's an effort by our Central Oregon Resiliency Resource Training Center facility, Core 3, for a little bit of lobbying effort. So Doug was selected by the Core 3 group to just take a positive position. So I got an email through our Core 3 email list for public safety leaders asking if we would put a logo on a letter reminding our legislators about this great project here in Central Oregon. So I guess, officially I'm asking the other commissioners to show support for that, or maybe we're already by default showing support for that by putting all the land in, but it would be our logo on a letter from Core 3 leadership, Deschutes County, asking for money. I guess that's the bottom line here, asking for money from the legislature through this biennium for improvements at Core 3. So Commissioner, if I could just throw some additional information, there's great interest from a variety of legislators in expanding DPSST capacity for training potential law enforcement officers. The backlog, according to most local agencies, is sometimes 6 to 8 months to get a candidate into training. And so what has happened, and we've heard stories in a hearing just a few weeks ago, or a work group, that there have been numerous incidences of trying to hire law enforcement officers, being told that they wouldn't be able to get the necessary training for 6 to 8 months, and then guess what? They go out of state. So it has been a major concern, and so there is an effort to add a potential east of the Cascades DPSST training resources to the Core 3 project in Deschutes County. Yeah, so as I say, the ask is put our logo on a letter, which I think kind of by default we're already there. So maybe this is more for information, but and it's getting picked up by state interest, which is exciting. Any thoughts, commissioners? So for your information, we'll have a logo on a letter in support of Core 3 to the legislators.
Yes, did we already give the millions of dollars of land?
Yeah, that's my
We
point. I
haven't
gotta let you know.
officially done that, but yes, what was it? 16 million or something? Yes. I
14.
think the county has done its share, so somebody else can fill in some more money. What, do we have like 9.5 million allocated already?
Yeah, from the legislature.
Yes, so.
And this could be one of those federal congressionally designated spending asks too. Okay, anything else for this meeting?
Just to circle back to that Redmond, City of Redmond letter request on the logo, I'm not sure that we circled all the way back to if the board is supportive of adding the county's logo, or if you want staff to bring that back at a later date, that's fine too.
Which letter is that?
This is the letter relating to the interest and resources from the CHIPS Act that Doug was speaking about.
They wanted to, that's dated the 21st of February.
Yeah, that's.
I think they want to know now. So it's fine,
I'm supportive.
fine by me.
Yes.
Great. You may note that our logo is already on it, but we were prepared to
Ah,
help with them.
Now it's official.
Yep.
Okay,
All right. Thank you, commissioners.
so anything else? I want to thank everybody, 9:08. So if we need to keep this within an hour, let's remind ourselves of that, because I'm not thinking like that. It's just kind of a Friday morning, get done meeting here, so. Okay, everybody have a great day.